Welcome to Under a New Roof. This podcast is for anyone interested in ways to reduce the carbon footprint generated by buildings. Each podcast deals with a particular topic or technology about making buildings more resilient in the face of climate change. It is an initiative from the Bow Valley Climate Action. I'm your host, Karen Rollins. In this episode, I'll be talking with Rick Daniel. Rick is a homeowner who made energy retrofits to his house in Canmore. Welcome to Under a New Roof.
Hi, Karen.
Rick, you made some modifications to your house a few years ago. What was your motivation in doing that?
Well, the first motivation was the need to have a somewhat larger house. This house was already large enough for just my wife and I, but it is now really serving also as a vacation home for our two daughters and their families. So when everybody is here, all the families with kids and dogs and so on, which is quite frequently, the house was a bit too small. So we were going to expand the house, and by quite a bit, by over 1,000 square feet. And we decided that if we'd only feel comfortable doing that, if we could actually end up with lower energy use and lower greenhouse gas emissions for the new larger house than what we had for the smaller house. So that's how we really got into looking at energy saving measures.
Okay. I was wondering what kind of changes in terms of energy retrofits did you make? I think I saw some pictures of new windows and ventilation.
Yeah, the two major changes we made were we added a layer of external insulation, both to the new addition to the house, but also we retrofitted the old house, took off the siding, added a new layer of wood fiber insulation, and put on new siding. So the walls now are quite a bit thicker. That was probably the biggest change. And then we also replaced all of the old windows, many of which were 35 years old now, with new triple glazed windows. So those are the two major energy modifications we made.
Okay, and do you know how much energy was saved by doing this kind of work? Like what the payback period is, or what the difference between your gas bills before and after might have been?
Yeah, we haven't really calculated that yet. We haven't had quite a full year in the new house since the renovations were completed. I have been tracking electricity and natural gas use. And we do, the electricity use is probably not significantly different at all. The natural gas use, our objective was to have lower natural gas use in the bigger house than we had in the smaller one. And it appears that we've achieved that. A little early to say how much lower, but certainly in terms of the energy use per square foot, it's dramatically lower because it's a much larger house now. So I would say probably on a per square foot basis, the natural gas use is probably going to end up being about 30 or 40% lower than what it was before.
That's significant, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's the external insulation was probably the bigger factor. I think the triple glazed windows help a little bit as well, but the external insulation, we went with a wood fiber. I can kind of show you what a piece of it looks like. It kind of comes in sort of 2.5 by 4 foot panels, and it's solid wood fiber. It's about 2.5 inches thick. I've got a smaller piece of it here that you can kind of see a little better. It's kind of tongue and groove on all sides so that all the pieces fit together. And there's no, as a result, there's no thermal bridging really all around the house. Wherever you have The initial framing, the 2x6 framing, on a normal house, you would have a lot of thermal bridging, a lot of heat loss through those 2x6 studs. But this wraps right around all of that and eliminates that bridging. This product actually is made in Germany. There's a couple of companies that make it there, and it had to be imported. You can achieve the same thing at probably lower cost with different products like rigid foam insulation or mineral wool insulation, get more or less the same result at somewhat lower cost. But there are a lot of environmental advantages to this. The manufacture of this wood fiber product actually removes carbon from it takes waste wood products to manufacture and sequesters it. So really for the life of your home, you're sequestering carbon in the form of these wood fiber panels. It also has somewhat better insulating value than say the rigid foam or whatever. But the disadvantage, as I say, is it's made in Germany, and so it's expensive to import. There is a company that has plans to start up manufacturing a similar product in Maine, but I think they're still a couple of years away from startup.
Okay, interesting. Were you able to access any funding when you had this done?
We didn't really look at that. I don't think for this, at the time that we started the project, that there wouldn't have been any real assistance, so we didn't.
Okay. And do you feel a difference in the house?
Yes, that's probably one of the biggest unexpected positives is that because the house is so well sealed and so well insulated, first of all, in cold weather, there's certainly nowhere in the house where you ever feel any drafts. The really unexpected thing is just the incredible insulation value in the summer. As you remember, last summer we had some extremely hot days in Canmore, and this house remained really quite comfortable because of that extra layer of insulation. And that's really something we hadn't counted on, but it's kind of an added bonus.
Yes, that's right. So insulation for the cold weather and for the hot as well.
Yeah.
And do you have any advice to give to homeowners that are looking at doing some energy retrofits to themselves?
Probably the most important conclusion really, I think, is this is so much easier to do with a new build house than a retrofit, and I'm sure much less expensive. I think that this kind of extra insulation, it results in a wall that's about a foot thick, really should be standard practice for houses, new houses in Canada. It's really a shame that it isn't, because it can be done quite economically and have enormous energy savings long term. Retrofitting is going to be more expensive, and you're not going to get the same kind of payback. In our case, it probably made more sense because some of our old cedar siding was quite old and required a lot of maintenance, and so we had a desire to replace it anyway, take it off, put on new siding. If that hadn't been the case, it would have been pretty expensive to take off siding, put on this insulation, put on new siding. So as with a lot of things, retrofits are going to be more expensive than doing it with that level of insulation when you first build.
Right. Was it a problem to accommodate the windows with that extra thickness in the wall when you put the insulation on?
It took some work for the builders to sort of figure out how to do it, and we also used a local consultant here, Raphael Spinner of HSS Design. He came in and consulted with our builder in terms of accessing how to access the wood fiber, but then also how you install the windows when you have that kind of wall construction. And so I guess that would be another piece of advice to anybody doing something. I guess make sure you find a consultant who's done this kind of work, either as your builder or at least bring them in as a consultant. Someone like Raphael, or you can probably find other people through Passive House Alberta, people who have done this kind of project before.
Okay.
Because most of the tradespeople that we had working on the project, this was all new to them, including the trades that did the siding. They had never installed this kind of material before, and the people who installed the windows had never done this before. So you really need to make sure you've got some expertise brought in to do that right.
Right. And do you have any other comments you want to make before we go?
I guess we're really happy we did it. And we expect, we'll live in this house probably for the rest of our life. And beyond that, hopefully our kids will. So really took a long-term view of these changes, and really think we're going to be happy with it in the long term.
Great. Well, thank you, Rick. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our email is info@bowvalleyclimateaction.org. I'm Karen Rollins, and we are under a new roof. Thanks for watching.